Hey there YouTube, welcome to another Tech Me Out video. Thank you so much for being here. The topic of today's video is installing VMware vCenter Server 7. We are going to install it on the Appliance version because Windows Server is out of support as of version 7. We will do it in an Appliance, in an OVA form installation, in a domain environment that matters. And the reason I'm doing this video is actually, again, because of you guys. I've gotten requests and questions about making virtualization focused videos. Now, I don't really like doing quotes, beginner level videos, but I think that this one is actually important because if we'll set the stage for the installation of a vCenter server, and by that we will roll on to create a new virtualization focused or VMware focused videos, I think that this will serve us well. I think it's an important skill set for an IT pro in 2020. Of course, I hope this video will be informative and helpful. And as always, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when new videos come out. So let's go over to the computer and start installing VMware vCenter Server. And in future videos, we will build upon it and create clusters and create HA and DRS and maybe vSAN and the whole bunch of goodies. So let's jump over and start rolling. Hey there YouTube. Okay, so we are at the computer and today we are going to install VMware vCenter 7. You will see that the process itself is maybe a little bit technical and maybe it's not all that user-friendly, but it's definitely not a difficult one to follow. There are a few assumptions that this video will have to build upon. The first one is that you have the vCenter server ISO. This is something that I cannot walk you through in this video because you either have it or you don't. There are places to get it legally, there are places to get it illegally. It's something that we will not discuss in this video, it's off topic. The second assumption, this video is created in a domain environment, and if this is the case for you, you need to have access to the DNS to create an A record for the vCenter appliance. And something that also worth mentioning, we are installing vCenter Appliance, not a Windows version, which will be, I think, is already out of support in VMware. So let's jump right in to my computer where I already have the ISO and I already extracted it. You don't have to extract it, just in my environment there are GPOs in place that prohibits the mounting of ISOs, but it doesn't matter. I have it extracted and it's ready to be installed with the UI installer. This is the folder you will need to go to in order to start the process. Win32. This is where we have the installer waiting to be launched. Now, before we do anything else, the installer will ask us what is the FQDN, the fully qualified domain name of the vCenter appliance we are installing. We will need to pre-create a DNS A record. So let's stay on topic and focused and jump right into my management server where I already have my DNS of my domain, my lab domain in this case, already opened. And without further ado, let's click on the right click and create a new A record. We will call our vCenter server TMO, stands for Take Me Out, VCSA. As for IP address, you know your network, you know which addresses are available and which are not. I have a server VLAN that I know that I can give this address to the new appliance to. So the A record is ready and we are ready to jump back to our installer and start it. And you will see exactly What I mean by maybe in this process is a little bit technical, but it's very easy in the overall technical complexity. So we will click on install. We will click on next, accept the license terms. This is where we need to specify which host, which ESXi host will host this vCenter appliance. Keep in mind, the minimum install, the most tiny version of the vCenter server in version 7 requires at least 12 gigabytes of RAM. So be prepared for that. All right, so I am in a domain environment. I will supply the FQDN of my ESXi host that will be the host for this appliance, for the vCenter server virtual machine. It's a virtual machine after all. Let's give the root account and the root password. Click on next and click on yes to accept the thumbprint. Let's call the virtual machine TMO VCSA, and now we'll need to supply a root password that will be configured to this virtual machine. I mean a root password not to the ESXi host that holds this virtual machine, but to the actual operating system of the vCenter appliance. Make sure it's a strong and complex password. All right, here is where we need to choose our deployment size. We are deploying it in a home lab, so I'll click on the tiny, and if you'll see here in this table, even the tiniest of deployments requires 2 CPU and 12 gigabytes of memory. I think the last version 6.7 only required, I think, 10, if not 8. So it's definitely a jump here. Let's select a data store. I will select this data store for me. And because I'm in a domain in a home lab environment, I click on the thin disk mode. Actually, I think that the difference between thick and thin in this particular case doesn't make any real difference in performance. So I definitely want the thin provisioning advantages here. All right, network. This is the network that the virtual appliance will be connected to. For me, it's the server's network. Here is where we need to supply the FQDN, which connects us to the A record we created in DNS just a few minutes ago. And let's go ahead and supply that. IP address, let's give it the IP address. Subnet, of course you know your network better than I. This is the subnet mask of my network. And again, this is the default gateway in my network. Let's give some DNS servers. And we can click on next. This is a summary page of what we did so far, and we are ready to click on finish, and this will start stage 1 of the deployment, and that is the creation of the virtual machine and the configuration of our settings that we supply, the IP address, the FQDN, etc., etc. This will take, it depends on your hardware and the resources, and if the data store you are deploying it on is an SSD or an HDD, but this can take anywhere from 5 minutes to even, I don't know, 20 minutes in very slow scenarios. So I will pause the recording here and I will resume it once this stage is done. Alright guys, so the first stage is over and now we can continue for the second stage. You can see that the first stage wasn't all this difficult. not at all even. The second stage, quite the same. Let's click on continue. All right, click on next here. I want to synchronize my vCenter with my domain NTP server, so I'll just point it there. I won't enable SSH access, at least for now. I don't need it. Let's click on next. This is actually the next part is very important, because the vCenter installation process will create some sort of an equivalent to a domain, and we will need to supply our requested domain name if we have any, and an SSO password. These are details that I recommend keeping a note somewhere, because you don't know when somewhere in the future you will need to create a new, I don't know, maybe transfer the domain or change the SSO domain, or maybe create a link mode between two vCenter servers. So you never know. Keep note somewhere safe and store it. For us in this case, we will keep it at vSphere local. Give a password. Again, make sure it's a strong password. I don't want to join the CEIP. Again, a summary of what we've done so far, and click on finish. A warning that we will not be able to pause or cancel the installation process once we click on OK. That's it. That's fine by us. And the second stage of the installation is starting to kick in. This is something that again usually can take somewhere from 5 to 20 minutes. So we will of course not wait to this whole process. We will cut the recording and resume it once this is done. But just before I do that, I would like to clarify that once the installation is done, we will have a vCenter appliance running and the web interface to get in and start configuring stuff. I do hear this a lot from people in the IT industry. The fact that you have installed a vCenter appliance doesn't mean that by some sort of magic all your ESXi servers are magically pointed into it and start to get managed by it by some sort of magic. No, the vCenter appliance, you will see it. It will have no data centers configured, no clusters and no hosts. We will need to create them. This is something that is on its own a separate video. We will start to touch on it in the later stages of this video, but I will dedicate a whole new video just for the creation of the management, let's say, environment or infrastructure, sorry. So I am going to cut the recording right here and resume it once stage 2 is done. Alright guys, so as you can see, stage 2 of the installation is also complete. For me it took about, I don't know, 8 minutes, something like that. As you can see, the process, I think you will agree with me, it's very, very easy. I think that for most of us, had we known this process is so easy, we would have done it a lot sooner. I've been working with VMware since version 5.5, and I think that the installation process, as far as the version of the vCenter and VMware products evolved, so did the installation process, and now it's very easy. It used to be, trust me, a lot harder. So now that the installation is complete, all we have to do right now is click on this link. It will take us straight to our vCenter server web interface, and we can launch, as you can see, in vCenter 7, There is no Flash client anymore, only HTML5, which is great. It works like a charm, snappy and fast. It's a delight. Okay, so remember I told you to write down your SSO credentials and password. This is, at least for now, until this vCenter will be joined to a domain, this is how we log in to the vCenter server. Alright, so for us it will be administrator at vSphere local, and the password we have configured during the installation process. Alright, so the first login can take, I don't know, maybe get a delay of a few minutes, because the vCenter appliance itself, the virtual machine, is still coming online. Processes are still launching, and we can actually get a delay of anywhere between a minute and 3 or 5 minutes, but that's only for the first login. The sequential logins will be very fast and snappy. So, as we can see, we got our vCenter server up and running. We are prompted for applying a license, which we will not do in this video. And as you can see, there is no data center, no cluster, and no hosts. Okay, so we will of course dedicate a whole video just for the creation of our infrastructure and the naming conventions and all this goodness. But just to get a teaser for the next chapter, we will create a new data center. Let's call it the TMO data center, and of course create a cluster. All these features are of course something that we will talk about in later videos. I am not going to apply turn them on right now. I would like to dedicate videos for them, maybe for each one, I don't know right now. Alright, at this point we have a vCenter 7 appliance up and running, we have a data center, we have a cluster. This is the time where our infrastructure is ready to accept ESXi servers to be managed under our vCenter server. I am not going to do it right now. I want to dedicate a video for this whole topic of management and infrastructure, but we have completed the process of installing a vCenter server, and I think that you will agree with me, it wasn't difficult at all. So thank you so much for being with me in this video. If you think you would have done it any differently, please let me know in the comment section below. If you have any tips, any tricks, I always like to learn new things and also hear criticism. And as always, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will be notified when new videos come out. Thank you so much for being here, and we will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.